So, hello, AP Art History students. This is obviously Elijah. Oh, damn it. um, this is Elijah, your instructor. So, this is a very impromptu video, obviously, very last minute because everything's falling apart. So, if that happens again, just bear with me. I'm in my artist studio, so it's a little messy. So, apologies if you see any mess. So I had a sketchbook that I used for economics because we have to draw graphs, and I was going to use that for this demonstration, but luckily, or by some chance of fate, I actually found my old sketchbook from when I took AP Art History. So I'm going to do a little demonstration on how I would go about a sketchbook now, just in the traditional way. If you want, I can also do a how-to to do a different type of sketchbook if you wanted to, but we can talk about that later down the line. So this was a power and authority sketchbook. It's a sketchbook that you guys are actually going to do when you get to Unit 2, Subunit 6, which is Roman. So we're talking about power and authority in this one. And what the sketchbook assignment is, before I actually get to explaining some examples, the sketchbook assignment is just a chance for you to get to know some works and get to know some AP Art History themes, because themes are all about what the AP Art History exam is. So getting to know sketchbooks. So I'll give you a relevant example. Power and authority was something that we had the kids do last year for AP Art History, the sketchbook Power and Authority, and then the first 30-minute essay on the AP Art History exam for 2019 was Power and Authority, so the kids knocked it out of the park. So I'm going to have you guys do a lot of sketchbooks just because it's going to get you really acclimated to what the test is going to be like and how to answer questions. So you're going to be able to talk about form, function, content, context, and how power and authority relates back to cultural content, relates back to the artist, relates back to the patron, relates back to all these different things. So let's get into it. So this is Augustus of Prima Porta from Roman, and this is the Code Stellae of Hammurabi from Ancient Near East, both Unit 2, both Ancient Mediterranean. And what you're always going to do for a sketchbook assignment is address the form, which is here, the function, the content, and the context. So if you can just hold on a second, I will pull up a document that will help us talk about what exactly form, function, content, and context are. So if you can just hold for 1 second, and feel free to skip ahead a second or two, but we've got it now. So form addresses, when addressing form, you want to talk about the analysis of an artwork that involves thinking about the materials, thinking about the techniques, and thinking about how the actual piece was made. And you also want to think about the physical and visual characteristics of that work. So remember, we're talking about materials, techniques, and visual and physical elements. So what the last part, the visual and physical elements, we're talking about line in work. We're talking about the shape, and we're talking about the space, the texture, and the color. So when we think about line, we want to think about, is it horizontal? Is it vertical? Is it diagonal? Diagonal? That's kind of diagonal. Is it curved? That's not curved. Sorry. When we talk about shape, we want to talk about how high it is. What's the width? Is it geometric or organic? And that's a thing that you're going to be able to tell if something's rather geometric or more organic, just in the way that the form is. We're talking about space. Is it positive? Is it negative? Is it three-dimensional? Color. What's the hue? What's the value? Is it dark, light? What's the intensity? Is it dull, bright, warm, or cool? And the texture, is it two-dimensional or is it surface texture? So let's talk about addressing function. So function, you really want to look at the guiding questions. Why did the artist create this work? For whom was the artwork created for? And where did the artist originally intend to place the work? So determining function involves focusing on an artist's purpose. So what function did the artist really want the work to be? And sometimes it's hard to address function. Sometimes it's a little bit more difficult because as we study farther back in history, especially in prehistory and the ancient Mediterranean, we don't know a lot about the artists. I think only a handful of artists exist in the ancient Mediterranean just because we simply just don't know what artists were functioning, or who made the art, who made the actual artwork. So let's move on to context, which is my favorite because I'm a history buff and I can really dig into context. So context involves thinking about the original and subsequent historical and cultural identities of an artwork. So we're thinking about when the piece was made, how let me try to think this out, how the historical context affected the work. So we're really thinking about, when we study that question, so say 20th century artwork, we're having lots of interesting movements, we're having lots of interesting interactions between artists and society. How did society and the culture of the era affect how the artist made their work? What is, or what was, the artist's status in the culture? And what impact did the work have on the history of art? So we're definitely having a huge amount of historical impact on art, especially in our newer or our older units like ancient Mediterranean. So we're going to see Augustus Suprema Porta becomes a symbol of power and authority, not even in Rome, but throughout Europe, because this idea of the Roman leader becomes the idea of power. It becomes the idea of strength in Europe. So you're really wanting leaders to be portrayed with this power and this sense of greatness. So, and then let's lastly talk about content. So when we analyze content, we're thinking about identifying subject matter, ideas, what's being said, what's being written, and what's being represented, and how ideas are being communicated. So when we talk about content, when we talk about form, we're thinking about how it looks. When we're talking about content, we're talking about what it's talking about. What's the commentary behind it? Is there any hidden meaning that we're missing? So what's the work depicting? Is there any significance, any symbolism? And how was the work affected overall? Or how does the symbolism affect the work overall? Does it have a message that it's trying to convey? And if so, what's the message that it's actually trying to convey? So you briefly need to touch on form, function, context, and content in your sketchbook assignment. So we see here, we talked about form, function, content, and context for both Augustus Suprema Porta and the Code Stele of Hammurabi. And then on the back here, I have a little, now this was my first ever sketchbook assignment back in probably 2017. And remember, it's 2020 now, so we've improved a lot. And what I have here is the similarities in form, function, content, and context. And then I have a little triangle on top that says power and authority. And I have what represents power and authority for both of those things. So this was a little, I don't think I probably got like a 75 or an 80 on this, if I'm being very honest, because it looks fine. I know what I was trying to go for, but I am also like not artistically inclined at all. This is not my medium of choice is instant photography, if you were curious. So this is not really my cup of tea. So I never really did all that great on these. And it's okay if you don't either. I'm not judging you on how well you do it. I'm judging you on how much effort you put into it. So this, I know I put some thought into it, just doesn't look all that awesome. So this one was about, I believe this was about the human form. So here we have another ancient Mediterranean work. This is Doryphorus, aka the spear bearer, from Greek. And what I have here, I talk about the culture, I talk about the actual form, and then I talk about the content and what Polykleitos is, because Polykleitos is the artist. And then up here I have a little up here I have a little description of what this is. And then over here we have Shiva as Lord of Dance and Niranja from the Indian unit, which is Unit 8, Subunit 23. And then in the middle, because later sketchbooks I had to tape some pages together, in the middle I have some similarities in form, function, content, and then culture, and then how the human form is being depicted. Next, moving on, we have the African art unit. I think in the next sketchbook I had to glue some pages together, so now the middles are kind of wonky. So apologies for that. So this one, I put a lot of effort into, and it looks a little funky because I have each different thing on a different corner, and then in the middle I have just, it's a whole amalgamation of stuff. But you got the idea. So you had the form, function, content, and context of the African masks. This is the Po mask, and is meant for male rituals, sort of as a coming of age, because the society that the Po is from is female run. It's a, not matricide, that's when you kill your mother. It's a, not maternity, patriarchy, matriarchy, that's the word. So it's a female run society. And then we have the Aka elephant mask, which is only meant to be worn by a certain group of people, and is only meant to be worn on a certain ceremony. So then we have what the similarities are between the masks, and how we talk about cultural identity, how we look at the form, function, content, and context of these two works, and how performance really plays into what these artworks are about. Because performance is all about being in the actual art, and these works of art were not meant to be taken out of their original context. And that's a very big theme when we talk about looking beyond the European tradition. So when we talk about Africa, when we talk about art of the Americas, when we talk about the Pacific, works from those units were not meant to be taken from their original context. So what we're having is this need to justify, on the European perspective, the need to justify the taking away from the native cultures. So that was a little tangent there, sorry about that. And then this is the last, I'm pretty sure, oh no, wait, oh, apologies. This is the last sketchbook that I did. The last one I did was actually for extra credit, so we'll go over that. And it's coincidentally the one you guys are going to do for practice. So this was about the female, I believe this was the female nude, not the female form. So we have, let's see, who is this? We have Venus of Urbino from Titian. This is from the High Renaissance. And then we have the La Grande Odalisque from Romanticism. So what I did in this one was, I was proud of this one. This one took a lot of creativity. I traced a picture of La Grande Odalisque and then filled in information wherever there was space. So here I put the function, inside of where I put the content, up here I put the context, and then on the bottom I put the form, and then in the middle I have where these two works are similar. And then over here I traced Venus of Urbino, which kind of looks very terrible now that I look at it now. And then we have the function inside of the content, and then right here the identification. So the identification is something that you guys are going to be very familiar with. So the identification, when I say to give me a full identification, that means just give me the name of the work, the time the work, the date the work was made, the artist if it's applicable, sometimes it's not, the location if it's a piece of architecture, and the medium, which is just how it was made. So not how it was made, but what it was made with. So this would be oil on canvas, for example, and Stonehenge would be limestone, for examples like that. So I don't necessarily want you guys to give me a compare and contrast. I want you guys to give me how both of these works exemplify the theme. And they can exemplify in different ways. They can exemplify in separate ways. It's really just, so long as you are able to answer the prompt in your own way and be able to absorb some content, it really does not matter how you're answering the question, so long as you are answering the question. That's why I give you so many options. You can do a sketchbook, you can do a video presentation, you can do a regular presentation, you could do a video, not a video call, a voice recording. You could do literally most anything else you could think of, so long as you check in with me first. Be sure to check in first. And yeah, so what I was going to originally do was walk through a sketchbook with you guys, but I can actually just break one down. So in the APAH practice assignment, you guys are asked to answer a 15-minute essay question and then to do a sketchbook. So the sketchbook is about landscapes. So I'll read the prompt to you. So, interpretations of space can change due to different historical and cultural context. The enduring theme of landscapes and what is being portrayed varies considerably from culture to culture and across time. Compare two works below. One of your choices must be Starry Night from Van Gogh. compare two of the works below. One of your choices must be Starry Night from Van Gogh. Create a slideshow, blah, 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 make a blog. And my options are Starry Night from Van Gogh, Earth's Creation from Emily Ahmad-Njoare, Fa Khan, Travelers Among Streams and Valleys, and then The Oxbow by Thomas Cole. So what I did was, this one was very colorful, and this was a bit last minute. So everyone knows what Starry Night looks like. So Starry Night is lots of royal blues and then some yellows, and then these were supposed to represent the houses and the trees. So you get the idea there. And then this is Earth's Creation. Earth's Creation is actually, well, I won't digress into that. But this is Earth's Creation, and you'll see it, and it's vaguely similar. You'll get the idea. So we have the form, function, content, and context, which I would like you to briefly talk about the FFCC for both works, and then I just want you to address the prompt in a way that you feel comfortable with. So let's see, I did a comparison here, and like I said, I don't really necessarily want you to do a comparison, rather just how both works exemplify the prompt. So I will talk about the landscape in Starry Night. So Starry Night depicts a very an 18th century landscape. I don't remember where, but it's from the view of a mental institution that Vincent van Gogh was staying at. And it's houses, it's a big fire, it's a lot. It's an open night sky. There's so much happening there. And then when we move to Earth's Creation, totally different uses of a landscape, because we're having no forms and we're having just an amalgamation of color. But you have to look beyond the color, and you have to look into Emily Ahmad-Njoare's culture, because there's this thing in the Australian outback known as the green time, and whenever it rains, you get lots of lush flora, lots of fauna, lots of very vibrant colors. So that's what this represents. It represents the Australian green time, which is very important to the Aboriginal culture. So that's what I would talk about. But it really is however you want to depict your sketchbook, and it really is however creative you want to be. And it can be in whatever medium you want it to be. Like I said, I'm not an artist, and back in the day, this was the only option we were given. It was a sketchbook. It's a sketchbook assignment because the only option we ever had was a sketchbook. But now it's just called the sketchbook assignment for the sake of simplicity. So that was hopefully helpful. I really kind of rambled on for 18 minutes. A little impromptu, helpful video there. I really hope it was helpful. If you guys need more, I'm always so happy to make these videos for you, because it lets me know that you guys are actually wanting to, engage in the actual class. So I'm always happy to do these for you, and I really hope this was helpful. If it was not, I will totally do another one, or I will do whatever you guys want to get this to stick in your head. Simple as that. So I hope you guys weren't too terribly bored, and I'm gonna stop talking before this goes on to its 20th minute. So if it ain't broke, don't fix it, guys, and we'll see you in the next one. Take care, and I love you all. Peace out, guys.